This is Codified Wisdom. Conversations with leaders sharing what experience has taught them and what they know now that they wish they knew earlier. Hosted by Eric Eager, CEO and co-founder of 4Impact Data.
Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Eric Eager again with another episode of Codified Wisdom. And as always, I'm just excited about have the opportunity to have everybody listen and talk with my friend, Geni Whitehouse. She's an author. She's a keynote speaker. She's a mover and shaker in the accounting profession for a long time. But she has an amazing story. And for years, she has been helping CPA firms move from compliance into deeper, more meaningful advisor relationships. And that is so critical these days. But she's been doing it for years and has just this incredible knowledge of trying to help the profession. She is also now, she is the leader of ITA, their Information Technology Alliance. She does speaking. She still is consulting and advising and does a little bit of everything now. And so, man, I'm excited to have her on, have her share her personal journey, which is going to be how in the world did you get here? And man, thanks for joining us. And what I always like to start everybody with is tell us where you grew up and what were some of your early experiences that started pointing you towards this crazy accounting profession, advisory world that you're in today.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much, Eric. It's crazy. I'm originally from Greenville, South Carolina. And you say it Greenville, not Greenville. And I'm now in Northern California. So how did I get here? Shocking to me that I ended up here. But the way I got introduced to accounting is kind of a strange one. My dad sold tax books for Commerce Clearinghouse, which is now Wolters Kluwer. And they
Yeah.
were paper things, and you took the papers out and updated every time the tax law changed. And he would bring the books home, and we would update them, and he'd take them back to clients because they couldn't stay up to date. And so I started doing that for him. He paid me like 50 cents a day or an hour, some ridiculous sum, and I would do it and take the old pages out and replace them. And there was this whole thing that told you what to take out and what to do. And I was looking through these books going, wow, this is weird stuff. I wonder what this all means. Look at all these code sections. Cool. I was a nerd at birth. So that was my first introduction. But also, he would come home and talk about how great these CPA firms were. And his favorite firm, which was
Yeah.
local, headquartered in Greenville, was Elliott Davis. And it's really fascinating to me that I get to work with those people as part of ITA, their members. And I also at one point had a role at working with Elliott Davis. And by that time, he had already passed away. But I thought, wow, I've come a long way to go from reading the textbook pages to actually working with the folks at Elliott Davis. And it's been an incredible journey. But beyond that, because I knew about CPAs and I really liked math. So when I was in the seventh grade, I went to my math teacher and said, if you're good with numbers, what should you do for a living? And she said, you either teach or you become a CPA. And I asked, which one makes the most money? And she
Yeah.
said, CPA. So I went, okay, that's what I'm doing. And that was my path for the rest of pretty much my life from that point.
So, so tell me about, okay, so you do that, where did you go to school for accounting and,
So,
how did you progress from that program to, then actually becoming a practitioner?
so I decided, I mean, I literally, that was my course. I mean, I was focused on that. So I started studying for SAT so I could get better grades and get test scores. I picked out the best school for accounting in the area, and that was North Carolina, UNC, which is where I wanted to go to school. So I figured I had to get in school, I had to get in. So I had a little vocabulary book I carried around so I could get better grades on my SAT scores to get into the school because it was out of state. And I took all these math courses so I could get as much done. So I got an advanced AP calculus by the time I graduated, and so I could skip some of the math stuff. But I mean, everything I did from that point was about doing that. So I got into UNC. I graduated, and the program there was 4.5 years. You took an extra 9 courses to become, so you could take the CPA exam. But I also majored in accounting, but I took all the computer programming courses I could take because I took one and just loved it.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a bunch of physics and advanced calculus and stuff like that so I could stay in there. And you can imagine what that did to my accounting scores because I was staying up all night in the basement lab where the mainframe was,
Okay.
changing the crappy programming that I did. And it was key punch. You had to take it,
Oh
you
no.
submit this stack of cards, and then it would take like 5 hours to get your printout back to find out you'd left a comma out somewhere. And then I have to redo the cards. And it was a nightmare. But I mean, I stayed up almost every night trying to fix my programming, which is why I didn't become a programmer, Eric.
Well, you can
Really
now.
not
You just
that
tell the
well.
AI what to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's shocking to think how far we've come. But so then when I graduated, all the big four came, all the big eight at the time came and interviewed, and they talked to me. And because my grades were lower than the cutoff, nobody was very interested. I was right below. It was like I think I had a 2.9, and their cutoff was 3,
uh,
3.0 in order to go to big eight firm. So I interviewed with a bunch of people, and I nobody did anything. Nobody offered me anything. And I got a call one day. This is so and so from Deloitte. We liked you, but your scores were not that good. But
it's okay.
we are willing to take you on under two conditions. One, you must work in tax, and two, you must go to Hickory, North Carolina, which is this podunk little town in North Carolina.
Oh
And I said,
no.
put me anywhere. It's Deloitte. I don't care. I
You
said
got the
yes, and that's
name.
how I got into Deloitte. Yeah, my first job out of college. And I already knew I was second rate at that point. So you can imagine, you kind of feel like, well, I don't really belong here.
Uh-oh.
They
And
got me some slack. So yeah, you carry that. I'm not as
well,
good as everybody else. So
well, how was it
yeah.
I mean, so you're in this small town
Yep.
and are you doing corporate returns, personal returns,
All of it.
so you're doing
All
all
of
of
it.
it.
And it's paper based, and I'm doing manual paper general ledgers. This is how old, I mean, and arcane it was. You had a general ledger, piece of paper, and you had to do a trial balance, and you were doing paper returns. And then they came out with things like fast tax, which you did the return, mailed it off, and they mailed you back the return. It was just a completely different world. But before I graduated, VisiCalc had come on the scene, which was the first
Okay.
spreadsheet application, and I was
Yep.
all over that because I had all this programming background. So anything automated, I was the person that knew what to do. So I was writing code in BASIC and doing all kinds of stuff inside the CPA firm. And I was also, I mean, I was really paying attention to that stuff. So when automation came out, I was always aware of it and trying to apply it. But the tools were pretty slow to be developed. But as a tax person, and I didn't know what, I mean, the teacher said you should be a CPA. That's what I knew about accounting, other than that,
Yeah.
and those pages in the book that I couldn't understand. So
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant or what you did or anything. So I
You just
started just this grunt work of putting stuff in here and moving it over there for tax. And I wasn't very good at it. I didn't have really the detail orientation. So I was at Hickory, and then I transferred with Deloitte to Greenville, my hometown, because I met somebody who was going to get married. So I
yeah.
live at home and save money for the wedding and stuff. And then I transferred to their Nashville office. But while I was in Greenville, the partner gave me my evaluation as a staff person, and they have the
Yeah.
formal thing you do, and said, your scores, I had an F. It was A to F grading, just like in school, and everything was an F on my evaluation. Went down the sheet, and I was like, what the heck?
Oh no. Oh
And he
no.
said, your poor communication skills impact every aspect of the job, and your voice tends to be a whine.
Oh wow.
And
And
I was like, well, what do I do about that? And so then, and again, coming in knowing that I was subpar with everybody else, and
yeah.
then I get this evaluation, and it's just like, and I had no, he didn't give me any advice about what to do about it.
So he just
And
called it out.
yeah, and if you think about it, your whole life as a starting accountant is negative feedback. You
Oh,
do
yeah.
something, you get 50 pages of mistakes. So over and over again, I get this. Every time I went in to hand him something, I'd go, here's the terrible work that I've screwed up, or if I asked a question, it would be, I know I'm an idiot, but what is this? And so it got worse and worse and worse.
And
Um,
and And how did you do that for, I mean, just having the grit and confidence? Because I think, my experience in accounting, you hit on a really good point. Because a tax return, you do the tax return, and it's just problem, 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 mistake, mistake, mistake in
You
your
are
confidence
with
level. And then then to have the F's. I mean, how did you pick yourself up and go, all right, I'm not going to be, um, uh, it's going to be kind of a punch to the confidence, but then you pick yourself up and go, all right, this
well,
isn't going to get me down.
that's the beauty and the downside of having a mission. Defined mission was to get to partner in the CPA firm.
Okay.
And again, starting out with no realization of what that meant. And I was just so focused on that, I just kept going. So 4.5 years at Deloitte at various offices, and then I realized I wasn't on the partner track. And
Okay.
a big part of that was the lack of confidence that I had by then. And so I took a corporate tax job, and that I absolutely excelled at because a bunch of what I did was automate things. And I made the whole tax process much easier. I wrote a bunch of code to do LIFO calculations, and I was thriving. And so it was a big mess. I came in and cleaned it up in a year. And at the end of the year, I said, okay, what do I do now? What's my next advancement level?
Yeah.
And my boss said, you wait for me to die. And this was a young, fit runner. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to put some poison in your coffee or something because you're going to live way too long. And so at that point, and I think I did it a second year. And then it's like, this isn't going to cut it. And if I'm going to change, this was in Minnesota. So I moved from Tennessee to the frozen tundra of
Oh my
Minnesota
gosh. So you've grown
where
up your
they
whole
talk
life in the
funny.
South. You're in the
Yeah, where they
South.
talk funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say you want a Coke, they think you mean that flavor of drink. Like it's not a Sprite, but we call everything a Coke when you grow up in, in
Absolutely. And
the
they go,
South.
oh, you mean like a soda? You want a soda?
Exactly. So I had to
No, no, I want a
retrain a whole
Coke.
bunch of people on a whole bunch of things. But so by the second year, I realized this was going to be the same thing over and over again. And if you come from public accounting, the variety is one of the big benefits. But when
Yeah.
you're doing corporate, and we had 50 divisions, we filed in every state. I mean, there was a lot of complexity to it.
Yeah.
But once you figured it out, the next year you just did the same thing. So I knew that wasn't going to cut it long term. So I started looking for a job back in the South. Joined a company. Um, that I was going to take. So I was a manager of the tax department and I was going to take a step up and be a director of a department, move to Atlanta and do that in a bigger company. And while I
Yeah.
was moving, they sold the company and my position was the only one eliminated. So I land there the first day of my employment. They make a big announcement that we've sold the company. We're taking it public. I mean, we've been acquired. We're not going to take it public. And so
Yeah.
having acquired companies in my other role, I thought, well, there's no corporate tax director position in
Oh
the
no.
RE. And so everybody's celebrating. They're out buying cars. Like all the people are taking all this money. And I come in, I missed that, of course. And they said, yeah, we're sorry. We couldn't tell you because of the blackout period. And so we had to move you here.
Oh no.
And on day one, you find out there's no job for you. But they said, we'll keep you on and you can do spreadsheets and sales tax. And I was like, I don't think I want to do sales
Oh my
tax.
gosh. So here
So
comes
I left and
another.
joined another company. I became a controller of a small business. And that really had a huge impact because then I learned about Peachtree accounting software and I left that job to become a consultant on software eventually.
And
Yeah.
so I mean, talk about, um, I mean, you go from just harsh review, you're moving, you land in a spot. Oh, by the way, everybody's celebrating and you're like, I don't have a job. Um, and then you go to another company. So it's just, just having the fortitude to just get up. And then you find kind of your calling
Then I
of
found my call.
technology.
And meeting with the client. So Peachtree Software Consulting, you go out to Joe Blow's cold storage. That was one of my clients. You go out there and you sit down with somebody who has been handed a piece of software and told to now become an accountant. And you walk in and you got your little briefcase. I'm Jeannie. I'm a CPA. I'm here to help. And they're like, I'm not an accountant. Don't put me in prison. And they're terrified. And so
Yeah,
I would sit down and go, good, because we don't need two of us. I'm just going to show you what to do with this. And I would try to make them comfortable. And that's the biggest skill that I learned from doing that. That was the beauty of that. But also, when I fixed something in that software and saved the day, I was a hero. And I
yeah.
never experienced that when I gave somebody their tax return. I was never
Uh, yeah,
a hero.
I'm sure you tried, and they're
I
like, "How much
try,
do
and
I
I
owe?"
lose sleep. I lose
I,
sleep over the balance due on somebody's return. But so that those meetings with small business owners who were never, they were never trained accountants. They were always somebody's spouse or somebody's kid or some poor employee who was good at something got handed the assignment to become the computer person. And so I could help them unravel it. I could help them get back to whatever they're doing. But when I would do that, then they would say, okay, we want you to be our accountant. So I built
yeah,
my own practice around that.
and and did you feel like, and I find a lot of people going into accounting, the true calling is really to help
It's
businesses.
absolutely, it's what
Like
we,
like
I think.
everybody I know in the profession, they raise a hand. Like, how many went in the profession to help people and help businesses? And that
Yeah.
everyone in the room's hand will shoot up.
Yeah.
And so you got a taste of that. And how rewarding when you started doing that? How rewarding was it to be that guide of this land of entrepreneurs who have gone all in a lot of these cases to start a business and provide an income and provide jobs for other people? How rewarding was it for you to realize, hey, I'm not only helping people, I am like transforming communities.
That was the thing, and I loved it. I mean, I loved going out there. People would be happy to see me because I could help them. I would explain something to them, and they would call me and say, "Oh, I'm doing that thing you showed me. That was so cool." And it was just a totally different environment from being back office doing the taxes. And if you think about it, at 4.5 years in Deloitte, I didn't have client contact. I was
Oh yeah,
back office.
they didn't let
Yeah,
you talk
so
to clients. Yeah.
yeah, so I was in the back office doing badly, and the stuff that I was good at, which was the client interaction, I didn't get to do until I eventually started doing the software consulting and going out. But the joy of seeing what these people do and the fascination of, wow, you're making money from that. I mean, I had like a door company, I had this cold storage thing, I had a printing client, I did construction client. I mean, that was one of my challenges that I took all comers, every client that did anything I worked with. And I was going
Yeah.
all over Atlanta, which, if you know, the traffic situation alone, nightmare driving all around. But I loved interacting with people. And it was a really fun thing. So I built my own firm, and then I realized I'm not making any money. I'm helping a
Uh-oh.
bunch of people,
Uh,
and they're all happy, but I am giving this away because they need me. Because I'm a service professional, Eric. I'm building my own nonprofit
yeah, I was gonna
here.
say, yeah, you had the first non-profit. You probably did your own nonprofit accounting.
Nonprofit accounting, I know. So I realized I'm killing myself. I'm working all the time and I'm not making money because I'm terrible at billing. So I had a client that I worked on that was a client of a CPA firm in town.
Yeah.
And when I came to this sort of realization, and I can't remember the exact moment, but I went to them and said, this is a service that needs to be part of the firm. I need all this other stuff done for these clients, and I can't do all of this. And so they had me join the firm and acquired my clients. But because I had a tax background, they saw me as primarily a tax person. So they plugged me in to do tax work again. And
Oh
I brought in
no.
a ton of work from the
Yeah.
client. But so what I would do is go out during the day and do the consulting stuff, and then all the tax work would be there, and I have to work all night to get all that done.
Oh no.
So I got the award for the person who worked the most hours, which is a great claim to fame.
Okay.
Is that
Still, you're a notch above nonprofit now.
all?
You're uh
Yeah.
you didn't follow that, work smarter not harder. You were
Oh,
working harder and harder.
I was working harder to try to be average, like everybody around me who was so good at it. They were just naturally wired for the back office stuff. And I love the client part. So my goal, as you recall, back in seventh grade, I got to be partner in a CPA firm. So finally, after 15 years of accounting,
Yeah.
they decide they're going to make me a partner in this firm.
Okay.
And I go home and I wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh my gosh, what have I done? This means I'm
Oh
doing
no.
this forever. I'm going to die in my chair, miserable. And so the next
Oh,
morning I went in and quit.
oh my God. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, just did you because you probably fast forwarded 20 years and but I mean that's a life altering like
It was,
you're at the mountain. You've achieved
I'm
this
at the
goal.
pinnacle. I'm at the quote pinnacle of what I wanted to do. And I'm going to walk away.
You're going to
And
walk away from that.
yeah, and
And then
I was terrified and I thought I had failed and I thought I was doing a dumb thing. But I wrote down exactly what they were going to do. They were going to pay me for all the clients I brought in. They were going to let me take a couple of clients to do on my own. And I was going to go to work for one of them who I had done monthly work for. And we had a great relationship and they needed a trainer on their software. And they had already said you could come work with us. So I
yeah.
had a bunch of stuff lined up, all of which benefited the firm. They had all the clients that I brought in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever have to review a lousy tax return I prepared anymore. So I just wrote it all out. It was kind of like I was possessed. I'm just like, I got to get out of here, and this is going to kill me. And I finally realized this was as good as it was going to get because every time something difficult came along, I kept thinking, well, if I get to this, it'll be okay. You know how we do that. Your
Oh
head's
yeah.
down. If I just get to the next thing, it'll get better. If I just get, and I kept doing that for all those years, and I realized there's no next thing. This is it, and it ain't getting
Yeah.
any better. And so I walked in, I did that, I started over, and within a year, I doubled my salary.
So now you're starting to we're getting out of the nonprofit era of
Yeah,
the Geni Whitehouse story.
yeah,
And you're starting to recognize, hey, you can make money doing this stuff.
yeah.
Um, walk me through. So now,
Now I'm at a client doing software training for the first time,
okay,
and
you're
I
doing so.
loved it. I loved
Okay, all right, and I don't know if you had like and I guess for the younger people listening to this podcast, there was a show called the Beverly Hillbillies. And did
it.
you get a Beverly Hills Billies moment and said, out west is where you need to be?
That was
And
that was later, a few more bumps in the road before I got to that. But yeah, eventually that's how I got to California through software. So I did that job.
yeah,
I did trainer for project management software. From there, I did PeopleSoft implementations. And during all of this time, so the whole time I was at the CPA firm in Atlanta, I
yeah,
was going to all the software events. I was learning everything about software. I was helping advise clients on what solutions they should get. And I was really
yeah,
watching what was going on in the space. And this new product had come in that Peachtree bought. Peachtree, and I think they were still by themselves. They weren't part of Best or Sage or whatever. And it
yeah,
was called Avista software.
uh-huh,
And it was the first piece of software that was modifiable to fit the requirements of a unique industry. And I saw it and I thought, this is the best thing I've
wow,
ever seen. And this will work for my clients, but it's a new product from Denmark. And I'm not sure this is going to stick. So I
yeah,
wouldn't recommend it, but I kept following it. So I go off, I do this training thing, I do a
yeah,
people implementation for National Geographic in DC. I go help them convert to PeopleSoft. This is during the Y2K thing where consultants who did that were making big bucks. So
oh
I do
yeah,
that.
oh yeah,
I come out of that gig and I called my friend who was at that company and said, here's my weird background of stuff that I've done. Is there anything I can do for your company? Because I think you guys have made it now, and I really think you're doing the right thing. And he said, yeah, we need somebody to build a CPA program for our software. And so they
okay,
hired me. This was Navision now. So Avista became Navision software from Denmark.
nice,
And I built the CPA outreach program for them. And that meant I was going to do speeches and stuff. I had to make presentations to the resellers of the software to make them partner with CPAs.
yeah,
So I go on board, I call them all a bunch of the partners before I create my first presentation to them on why they should partner with CPAs. And I ask them, what do you think about CPAs? We hate them. 100% of every person that I talked to said, we hate them. We don't want to work with them. They kill our deals. I'm like,
Like,
well, I
what?
made another great decision to take this job for people who hate what I do and all of the people like me. So
So
I had
we're
to do a presentation at our conference to this audience and convince them to work with CPA. So I went, they're coming in with pitchforks. They're going to kill me. I'm going to have to break the tension, and I need to do it with comedy. So I went and
okay.
found, I had a brilliant friend who knew every movie ever done. And she said, and I said, I need something funny about CPAs. She said, here's your clip. It's Monty Python's Lion Tamer. And you need to show that and then work. So I watched that, and it's hilarious about how boring and dull accountants are. From Monty Python. You can find it online. So I got that clip. I started the presentation. I said, I've called you folks before this session, and here's what you told me you thought about CPAs. And it proceeds to say, we're dull, boring, awful, blah, 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 and goes through this whole thing.
Yeah.
I said, and they all laughed. And as soon as they laughed, they were on my side. It totally diffused the barrier that was between them and me. We were all on the same team at that point. They were laughing. I said, this is what you think about us. And I said, this may be true, but your client calls me before they call you when they're trying to make a decision about what software to buy. And if I say no, you're done. So you
Yeah.
need to get me on your side to just not say no. Now, that doesn't mean you need me in the room before you close a deal or during the sales process, but I need to know about you in order for that deal to go through. And so they were all like, what? So I just told them about what to do. So it turned the audience totally over because I could use humor to make them not be terrified and mean.
Well,
So that's when I
you
went,
know,
I got to get good at this. I got to use this because I want more
absolutely.
to understand what I'm talking about. And it was kind of what I did when I met with these software companies, try to make them laugh so they wouldn't be afraid. So then I decided I need to take stand-up comedy training, and I did my dad's eulogy and used humor for that. And that's really the moment when I went, okay, I got to get stand-up comedy training because this tool is very effective. And it helped me
So
get
let
through
me,
the
yeah, I was going to say, let me, stop for a second. Now let's talk about life journey here. We are
yeah.
going from you need to be an accountant
Yeah.
to punch card programming to tax returns to going from the south to Minnesota
Yeah.
to talk about an incredible journey, and then you start doing it in practice. Now you're in software, this crazy
Software.
world. You're selling software to accountants. You realize you figured this out on your own, that hey, if you get people to just lower their guard and not be on their defensive and laugh at themselves and ourselves,
Laugh at themselves. Yeah.
laugh at themselves, then you found the secret. But then I have heard that while most stand-up comedians make it look natural and easy, I understand that it is incredibly hard. Um, to learn how to do it effectively. So now here's another example of, well, I gotta go figure this out. And now you're doing stand-up comedy, the stand-up comedy accountant, CPA, technologist, among other things. So tell me a little bit
So
about you're doing this, and tell me the people in the background. I mean, like, are you the only accountant in the room, and are they looking around going, what are you doing
oh
here?
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm the only one in the training class. Yeah, so I go and I had a passion. So if you think about the misery that I endured for those 15 years, there's a flame that gets lit that goes, I don't think, and I don't want anybody else to feel like I felt for those
Yeah,
15 years. Like I
yeah,
wasn't good enough, like and I was doing the wrong thing. And the only time I felt good is when I sat across from a client and I could help them.
yeah,
And taxes never did that for me. They never helped them. I might have gotten them out of a bind if they had some sort of assessment or something, but there was no
yeah,
impact on the business or the dream they had. So I have this passion to try to help them, and I know I've got to get through to them in order to do that. And so
yeah,
when I find a pathway that lets me connect with people, I go, I got to pursue that. So the passion to do whatever you're motivated to do will help you overcome whatever barriers come along. And so first I started reading every book and I started doing everything I could about speaking and
Yeah.
communicating and took all these other courses. But stand up was really the first thing I did because it was the hardest, the most alien to me. And so I
Yeah.
found a guy in Atlanta who did 6 weeks of training and you delivered your routine you wrote at the punchline when you were done. So graduation is get on stage at the punchline and tell your
Yeah.
nerdy story.
The collective wisdom and lessons learned from these conversations have been the inspiration for the business guidance system at 4Impact Data, helping CPA firms grow client advisory services.